Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, DeFi Live. It's great to be here. My name is Karim Abuzeineh. I'm the co-founder of Cryptonary, and we are a crypto research and media firm operating globally. I'm gonna first share my screen. Yep. All right. Here we go. So today I want to talk to you about the next generation of finances. And the way I want you to think about this presentation is similar to like an SBF Twitter thread, right? I mean, it's long, it's diverse, it's gonna go through like multiple ideas, but there's a nice conclusion at the end, right? So first and foremost, I want to talk about like where I think we are overall. I think we're at the cusp, at an inflection point between TradFi and DeFi, right? Less people are starting to use TradFi, and there's more interest growing when it comes to DeFi. So we're at the cusp, and we will be for the next, I'd say, 12 to 24 months before we see like even faster acceleration, because the products, to be honest, they're good, but they're not fully yet developed and ready for mainstream use. Now, before I jump onto the DeFi side and the next generation, how they're investing, me included, I want to talk about what I call the TradFi box. The TradFi box in general, and to be honest, when I first was preparing this presentation, I wanted to call it the black box, but it's not really fair. Black box is more, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but a black box is similar to, it's like trading strategies that are called like a black box. You come in, it's fully automated, it's proprietary, you have no clue what's happening inside, whether it's trend following, mean reversion, what the parameters are. But in TradFi, it's not really that. There's still some transparency, just not full on transparency. And the reason it's that way, it's because there's a bit of background noise, by the way. Anyway, the reason it's that way, it's because boomers, that generation, that's how they wanted to invest, right? They trusted professionals. They wanted to come in, put in their money, and just accept that, there's going to be yield happening, or they're going to have some sort of return, and they would trust professionals for that, which is a point that I'm going to get to in a second. That black box has attracted about 100 trillion in AUM globally. It's actually more than 100 trillion. The numbers range depending on where you look, but it's anywhere between 100 to 150 trillion. About half of that is in the US alone, right? And so in general, the TradFi box is about minimal involvement. People don't really want to have too much say about how their wealth is managed. It's not fully transparent either. If you think of like savings accounts with banks, which by the way, you only get like up to 50 basis points per year, which is nothing. You know that it's going to get lent out to individuals and businesses, but you don't know who, when, how much of it, and what the terms are, and whether there was proper due diligence or not, which is not the case in DeFi, which we're going to get to in a second. Plus, it's a closed system. Yes, it's not open source, obviously, but it also does not welcome competition. I mean, just try to create your own financial institution today, and you're unlikely to make a lot of headway, to be honest. And trusting professionals, that's an important one. And I'm gonna tell like a personal story. About like 2 or 3 years ago, I got to go to a mutual fund, and they manage hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And I got to sit with a fund manager there. I was really excited, just like at a university, or about to graduate from university, and trying to make headway in the financial industry. And as I sat with him, that excitement slowly dimmed down. I'm obviously not going to say names, but it slowly dimmed down to the realization that they have no clue what they're doing. They rely on others for analysis. They don't really know why they're invested in things, nor did they like create any sort of thesis behind any certain fund. And that's mutual funds in particular, right? Hedge funds are like maybe slightly better, but obviously trusting the professionals doesn't mean like they are worthy of that trust. And that's, from my personal experience, maybe I'm generalizing here based off of like just meeting one person that's in that space, but it does seem like they're not really sure about what they're doing. And it's also like, you can see that from the performances, right? Very rarely do they end up outperforming the S&P, which is their benchmark. And then we have what's called the great wealth transfer, right? And there's a transfer of wealth that is happening from boomers towards both Gen X and millennials. And that number, again, differs depending on the sources that you look up, but it's around 30 trillion, right? It goes up to 60, but I'm taking like the lower end of things just to stay on the safe side. And that 30 trillion is just in North America alone. So if we were to extrapolate the numbers and to like figure out how much it would be globally, it would be like around 50-60 trillion based off the lower end number. And it is about a 50-50%, it's a 50-50 share between Gen X and millennials. Now, we at Cryptonary have a very large audience on Instagram. We're close to 500,000 followers. Today we're at 446. And over 55% of our audience are millennials, right? And I like to think that this is a large enough sample to ask questions to and figure out, if we were doing it mainly to develop a new product, but to figure out where their mindset was at and how they were thinking about crypto. And so we posed the question, right? We posed the question of how has crypto benefited you other than the profits that you've potentially have made? And here are the 6 most popular answers that we've received. Hope is number 1, which is understandable, right? Mainly because the average income today in the United States, and the reason I bring up the US is because it's the biggest economy, right? It's about $50,000 per year, whereas the average house cost is $450,000, right? So if they were to even save up 20% per year, which is quite high off of 50,000, they would need an extra 35 years to save up for a house than they would have in the 1960s, right? So obviously there's some sort of hope that's brought forward with crypto with the excess returns. And obviously those excess returns come with excess risk. Then there's the freedom aspect, right? And I'll tell you from personal experience, I'm a big fan of having complete say over where my funds are at any point in time. I get to say where they get lent out, where they get used, which exchanges, right? And it's censorship resistant. These are my funds. No one gets to tell me like where they go and where they do not go. Then there's discipline and patience. And this works out on the fact that in general, boomers wanted the TradFi box, whereas millennials, they want to invest in things themselves. They want to have a say over how their wealth is managed. And there was an article from the Wall Street Journal the other day that Suzu shared on Twitter that basically said that the rich millennials are not willing to let wealth managers manage their money. They want to manage their own money, right? And that's a big step forward because they want to have a say in terms of which opinions they express in the market. Because at the end of the day, markets are a way to express an opinion. When you back something with your money, you are expressing an opinion in the market. Either you get rewarded from the market or you don't, depending on how well built that opinion was. Then there's value of money in general. And I personally don't agree with it, to be honest, because crypto is the only place in the world where $1,000 doesn't seem like a lot. Everywhere in the world, $1,000 is decent money, except in crypto, where it's like you pay this for like 10 swaps on Ethereum, right? So I personally disagree with that. But then there's financial. Hello? Okay. Thought I heard someone. Then there's financial education. Yeah, I can't hear you. Hello? Okay, cool. Yeah. Then there's financial education, right? Which is a very important point. And this is what we focus on as well as Cryptonary. A lot of people back in from the boomer area did not really have any knowledge in terms of how they can grow their funds, how they can manage them, let alone where they could invest them themselves, and hence why they went for the TradFi box. But when it comes to crypto now and millennials, they do have a say, and they do want to have a say. And in general, that's the next generation of finances, right? It's open source, it's trustless, unlike the TradFi side, which you need to trust professionals for. It's fully transparent. It's competitive. If you want to create a new protocol and you're a good developer, you get to do it, and you can make headway as long as, you also need some sort of marketing, to be honest. You can't make it without it. And you get to express your opinion because in general, millennials want to impact the world. They want to have an impact, right? And that impact is going to come through a certain way to express an opinion and a certain way to back certain projects. And this is what sort of DeFi allows them to do. But in order to do that, and because we have a great wealth transfer happening, about 30 trillion, it's very important that the educational side is fully there. Because while you're not pledging your money with financial advisors and professionals, right, which is great, and I do think that it's great that people don't no longer go to financial advisors because maybe they're not the most competent, and also they might not be expressing the opinions that you want to express, right? right now from the previous panel, someone was saying, I can't remember the name, but someone was saying that people want to invest in things they understand. And I fully agree with this. Honestly, it's the best investment philosophy in general, not financial advice, but it's a great investment philosophy to invest in things that you understand. And the only way to do that, honestly, and to make it fully bespoke is to take care of your own finances. But in order to do so, and this is where I introduced the concept of the Era Trifecta, and it's education, research, and analysis, right? And this is what we do at Cryptonary. It's very important to make sure that people have access to proper education, not financial advice, but they have access to education. They have access to research from people that have been in the industry for a very long period of time, as well as market analysis. And then the goal is not that this is the end all and this is like the final say in their investment thesis. No, they build on top of it, but it's a starting point and it's a way to start shaping one's thought process. And in general, for millennials, that's going to be a very important point going into the next couple decades, and to ensure that the great wealth transfer is not chaotic and non-constructive, but on the other hand, it is constructive. Because the reason we're all here, the reason we're in crypto, except for a select group of people called scammers, is to help advance humanity, right? And it is to do good and to increase efficiencies in this world for the human society. So that part, the Era Trifecta, is going to be very important going into the next 2 decades, as well as also the developments, obviously, that all the devs have been doing, and kudos to all of them. That's it for me. Hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to networking with some of you later on.